Hello and welcome to the Box Score Network NFL preview show on YouTube. I am Simon Short. Joining me is Ben Parker. Ben, just you and me this week, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Just the old guys, man.
Just the old guys. We ain't got nothing going on. It's cold out. Our bones are sore. We have Christmas lights to hang. The young guys are out having fun. So Ben and I are going to hold it down this week. Make sure you guys are checking out all the pods on Box Score Network. Simon and Friends Pod, Odds On Favorite, Tricky Takes. That's tricky with two eyes, two P's on a pod, and even go check out because CONCACAF, our international and North American soccer podcast. Make sure you're checking all that out over on the audio side. But thank you for being here on YouTube. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel while you are here. Ben and I are here to preview week 12 of the NFL slate. We're going to get you through all the Sunday games and Monday night. To kick things off, Ben, we are going to do our game of the week, which is the official hipster game of the week. You suggested this, and this is great by you. We have the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona is currently leading the NFC West, but Seattle is just one game behind. Ben, what are you looking for in this game?
Boy, I total toss up here. This was by far the hardest game of the week to pick for me. Should be a fun one though. I'm actually looking forward to it. And I've been calling Seattle frauds all year. And Robertson Vire on our Tuesday night podcast, Odds on Favorite, was kind enough to point out because I actually picked Seattle to win on Tuesday night that if Seattle wins, they're probably in first place in the division. And here I am still calling them frauds. And I was like, yeah, but I'm still hanging on, baby. All right. So here we go. If listen, they're 2-4 at home. That bothers me for
Yeah.
Seattle. That's they're not defending the home turf. It's not a huge advantage right now. The two defenses statistically are fairly similar, and Arizona's got the better offense. I like Arizona better. I think they're the better team, but it still reminds me of the NFC South, where every time you think you got a team figured out, they're starting to pull away from the pack, which Arizona is. Then they just get drugged back in. So I'm going to pull Seattle here. It's a complete toss up, but give me the Seahawks in this game.
I love Seattle. I love Geno. The thing that makes me nervous for them right now, I'll get into some of the deeper statistics in a minute, but Arizona is on a roll in terms of blowing teams out. Now, if this was going to be a close game at the end, I would 100% trust Geno to come out with it against a middling Cardinals defense, not any slight. That's even way better than we thought it was going to be going into the season.
It
Middling is
is.
fantastic with the roster they have over there. But Seattle's is in the same boat. So, I mean, if you're telling me it's going to be a close game, look at what Geno did last week against the 49ers, right? Just taking them down in the 2 minute drill to win that game. I think that could absolutely happen again. But the last 2 weeks, the Cardinals have won 29-9 and 31-6. And everything in the advanced numbers is telling me that we could absolutely see something like that again because what Arizona and what Kyler Murray are really good at are things that Seattle aren't particularly good at defending. And it's also some of the things that Seattle's actually good at, Arizona's just really good at playing against. So some of those things for you. Seattle's defense allows quarterbacks 2.69 seconds on average in the pocket, but Kyler is fourth in the NFL in EPA per play on dropbacks over 2.5 seconds. So think about, Kyler's been better in the quick game and pure dropback stuff in the last year or so. But think about where he's at his best. And it's making magic. It's running around, extending the play. And Seattle typically will allow quarterbacks to do that. Just have 23 sacks on the season. They get a decent amount of pressure. They're eighth in the league in pressure rate. But Kyler, man, if he's running around back there, that's when he's at his best. Even when he's facing pressure, because when he is under pressure, he is still fourth in the league in EPA. So even if Seattle gets a little bit of heat on him, even if they make him hold the ball, that's what he wants to do anyways. And they're probably not going to get their hands on him. So Kyler is probably going to be able to do what he wants. And I think they can have another explosion offensively. And Seattle is just not efficient enough with anything they do on the offensive end to keep up with that when Arizona is playing at its best, I don't think.
And I'm going to pile onto that a little bit. When I looked at this game strictly from analytics, everything was ticking over to Arizona. That's everything. And that's why I'm convinced they are the better team. But I'm also convinced that Arizona's still a little new at this thing. You've still got your second year coach with a not great defense. You mentioned middling, and with this is basically Kyler's first full season working with said head coach. We got the tail end of last year a little bit. So I'm just not totally convinced that Arizona is ready to just push on out of the rest of this division. The other thing that brought me back to the Seattle Seahawks in this game is we're at that part of the year where the in season trends teams are starting to change. They're not what they were
Mhm.
5 or 6 weeks ago. Seattle has started making adjustments, and that's got me interested. On defense, they're starting to simplify some of the things. They were doing some of the things gap wise on defense that they've gotten away from the past 2 or 3 weeks. On offense, they're doing a little bit less shotgun and a little bit more under center. They're doing more play action. They're running the ball more now, more than they were even, say, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So you can see that they're starting to change. So now my question is, well, they're changing. Are they changing for the better? Is this going to make them a better football team or at least harder to figure out? So all of that plus a little bit of emotion here led me to Seattle. But man, the analytics are all pointing over to Arizona as far as I can tell.
Yeah, because even if I think Gino is the key, right? I think if we look up and Seattle is winning 21-7, 21-10 in the third quarter, it's because Gino has like 250 yards through that point of the game, something like
Right.
that. But the thing is, Arizona can also grind this thing out when they have the ball. They can try to keep Seattle off the field. They're fifth in EPA per rush on the ground. Meanwhile, or I'm sorry, Seattle gives up the fifth highest EPA per rush defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the Cardinals are ninth in the league in EPA per rush. So even if the Cardinals wanted to try and grind this thing down, even take the ball out of Kyler's hand a bit, they're well built to do that. And especially against Seattle, which their run defense is the issue for them this season. They get decent pressure, and that really helps the stickiness of their corners. They have like I think they have the highest, or I guess the lowest separation allowed to wide receivers per play. But if they're going to be gashed in the run game, that's going to keep Geno off the field. Then I think Arizona can just continue to move the ball on them. I am going with Arizona. If that wasn't clear, this game is it's a 1 point game right now in terms of the odds. Arizona is actually the underdogs at the moment. Seattle is favored by 1 right now. So that is certainly going to be a fun one. Really excited to see it.
Loving this game. I like it almost as good as the Hardball that we're going to have on Monday night.
Oh
And if it
yeah.
weren't for the Hardball, this is the one I would want to see. This game is just interesting to me from a variety of different angles.
Absolutely. Let's get into the rest of our picks here, Ben. And before we do that, let's take a look at the landscape of our show. You are still in first place, 103-51. You are crushing it right now, but Austin's right behind you at 101-53. I am creeping up 99-55 after a good week last week, and Parker is falling behind at 90-64. But most importantly, Ben, when it's the four horsemen, when we're all on the same page, we are at 74% hit rate, 61 and
Mm.
21 on the year. Our best pair is still by percentage, you and Austin at 5-2 when you guys are in agreement versus me and Parker. But you and I are creeping up there. We are 6-3. So one more win, but one more loss as well when you and I are on the same page. Let's get into it, Ben. What is your first pick? Let's see. Our first game here, we have Vikings at Bears. Minnesota is favored by 3.5. What do you got here?
I'm going with the Vikings. I don't figure at the end of the game it's super close, maybe 8, 10 point differential. The Bears looked better last week against the Packers. There's no
Hmm.
question about it. And they're playing at home again. And Thomas Brown, I really, really like what I saw out of him as the play caller for Caleb Williams last week. I feel like that's a very good partnership for the rest of the way. The Bears are still really sloppy, though. They are unbelievably undisciplined. And it still feels a little queasy, a little sick there in Chicago. Like something's just not adding up. And you know my feelings on Eberflus there. So ultimately, it's just too much Vikings to me.
Yeah, everything is swinging back in the Vikings' favor at this point of year. Blake Cashman is back. Our friend John Boyd over at Bite Size Sports and Zone Coverage has done a lot of work on this Vikings defense. And Blake Cashman is the key, and he's making them impossible to score against and move the ball against. He's back. I think that's going to be a big, big deal for them. I've got Minnesota as well. Lions at Colts is the next game here. Detroit is favored by 7.5. Lions will be without rookie corner Terrion Arnold, but I mean, it's all about next man up in Detroit, isn't it?
It is. That's the attitude. And it's not just an attitude, it's actually X's and O's. And hey, we've got depth on this roster. So I'm not hugely concerned about that. Give me the Lions here in a runaway. And I don't mean to slight the Colts, and I'm not trying to slam Anthony Richardson here. It's just I'm in love with the Lions right now. They are on an absolute roll. And when Goff isn't throwing 5 picks, they're kind of winning by 40-10 every week. So this game will be closer than that. But man, you got the Lions in here on a fast track again. They're going to spend most of the rest of the year playing indoors, all through the playoffs, the Super Bowl. It's there for them. Too much Lions.
Yeah, this is Lions all the way. I mean, the Colts might get an explosive playoff or two without Arnold, who has the most snaps on by any corner for Detroit. But I mean, Detroit is basically a top five defense nowadays, man. So if you're remembering the Lions of old, where it was, all gas, no breaks, that's not the case anymore. All gas, all breaks for Detroit. I'm with you. I got Lions in a win here against the Colts as well. Next game up, we have Patriots at Dolphins. I didn't even look up the line for this one, Ben. What do you have here for Patriots Dolphins? The Dolphins are favored by 7.5. Feels like we're right back to the old times with Miami.
Another sneaky fun one here. I'm looking forward to this one as well. I hope we get this in the 1 o'clock window. The Patriots are kind of starting to sneak up on people a little bit. Rod Mayo's doing a solid job coaching. I don't think it's brilliant, but it's solid. The defense still isn't very good, but they're not just bleeding points every week. They're in there competing, and then Drake May's passing for yardage. So they're in there fighting. I feel like they can hang in there in this game, but at the end, give me the Dolphins because you mentioned we're kind of right back to where we thought we would be with the Dolphins. Too much Dolphins.
Yeah, if this was the Patriots defense last year with Drake May, this would be a closer game in my book. But this Patriots defense is just not clicking the way it needs to be right now. Meanwhile, Miami's just getting better, more on track as everybody gets healthier. So give me the Dolphins to win this one as well. Next up, we have Bucks at Giants. This is also a highly injured game. Tampa Bay is currently favored by 6, but they will most likely be missing left tackle Tristan Wirfs, who hurt his knee 2 weeks ago before their bye week. Malik Neighbors for the Giants was added to the injury report on Friday as a DNP with a
Mm.
groin injury. That's never good, but he said he's confident he's going to be playing. And of course, elephant in the room, this is all without Daniel Jones at quarterback, who has been benched, media sized, and released since we last spoke, Ben. So,
Mm.
do you give any credence, any hope to the Daniel Jones less Giants?
Not much. There any given Sunday, right? This isn't totally true, but I'm going to label this one with the nobody gives a flying rip most irrelevant game of the week. It's just the one on the schedule that stood out the most here. Obviously, the Buccaneers have a chance to work their way back in the playoff picture with a win here, so it does matter from that standpoint. Buccaneers look like the better team. Last I checked early in the week, Mike Evans had a chance at playing in this game. I haven't checked today, but he was practicing earlier in the week, so there's a chance he could show up. Even if he doesn't, though, I'm not sure the Giants have a real chance to win this thing other than just, hey, puncher's chance any given Sunday. The Buccaneers are clearly the better team. They're not even as close as their records would suggest. Buccaneers on a 4-game losing streak
Right.
without their two best wide receivers. Giants look a little lost in some of these games.
Yeah, the Bucks are banged up, but I think to your point of Evans, even just practicing a little bit, he was full participant Thursday, limited Wednesday and Friday, officially questionable. Um, that just gives you a little bit of hope, right? And it's like, man, if we can get a win this week and we get Evans maybe back next week, we can really get on a roll, try to win this division. I've got the Bucks as well. I know the Bucks defense isn't what it was 2 years ago, but Todd Bowles against Tommy DeVito, man. I mean, give me the Bucks all day for sure. Let's go to Cowboys at Commanders. Washington is favored by 10.5. Dallas will be without Jake Ferguson, tight end, cornerback Trayvon Diggs, and offensive lineman Zach Martin, along with, of course, Dak Prescott in this one. So, Ben, what do you got here?
That line still scares me a little bit, but
Big
give me the
line.
Commanders and the Get Better Game of the Week sponsored by Blue Tent. So the Commanders have been struggling a little bit. We all know, but they've been close in some of these games. It's not that they've been getting ripped necessarily. And you got your Dallas Cowboys coming in, who half the team's missing, and the other half, I'm not even totally sure, other than Micah Parsons, that they're truly engaged in winning every single play. So Commanders at home, I think they have a big day, and they win comfortably to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Two tough losses in a row for Washington, but this is definitely a good get back game for them against a division opponent they are motivated to beat down and run up the score on. Next game, we have the Chiefs at the Panthers. Kansas City is also favored by 10.5. What do you got here?
I'm going to do something I haven't done since last year, and with good reason, because KC is the two-time defending champions here. I'm going to throw some shade at OC Matt Nagy, the Chicago of the Kansas City Chiefs, formerly the Chicago Bears, and the Freudian slip there.
Chicago
He
Chiefs
doesn't.
action.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know exactly how much Andy Reid puts his imprint on this offense. I'm sure it's a lot, and how much is Nagy. But when you see back-to-back years in which the Chiefs have some guys to throw the football to, and yet the offense continues to stagnate with the best quarterback in football, basically, I'm going to throw some shade there on him. But in this game, that shouldn't be a big deal. Chiefs should have time to work on the offense in this game, and they win comfortably.
Yeah, I don't think any woes happening in Kansas City are gonna have an issue here. And they get the loss out of the way with the Bills last week, right? We had this show
Yep.
last week, and majority of us, Austin was on the Bills winning, but a majority of us thought that, okay, Chiefs can get this one against the Bills, but maybe it's a bit of a look ahead, a trap game, if you will, not to bring up the bugaboo term, against the Panthers, but they got their loss out of the way, bad opponent. Good teams beat bad teams, man, especially right now. So give me the Chiefs as well, no doubt. We have next the Titans at the Texans. Houston is favored by 8. What do you got here?
Texans still haven't gotten that crisp game yet this year. They've shown little bits and pieces here and there, and that just bothers me come playoff time. But it shouldn't matter here in Houston against the Titans, who just can't get out of their own way. I don't get the feeling the Titans have quit or just aren't trying that hard. They're just not that good, man. This is a bad football team. Defense is trying, but it's not going to be enough here. Give me the Texans in this game.
Yeah, this Texans defense going to be too much for the Titans offense for sure. But like you said, Titans, man, they're still fighting. They have not given up. This defense has been really good, even without the big free agent cornerback signings, L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie playing for not playing for a majority of the season, basically. So they're still going at it. But give me the Texans as well. Maybe CJ Stroud gets under a little bit of pressure, but not enough to impact what I think will be a good Texans win. Next up here, we have talking going to the afternoon slate, I believe. Now we are in the afternoon slate here with the Broncos at the Raiders. Denver is favored by 5.5. What do you got?
That feels about right. I know the Raiders are not a very good football team. Matter of fact, they're very similar to Tennessee when you come right down to it, just in terms of overall capabilities. And Denver's rolling, but you're going on the road in a division matchup. Antonio Pierce hasn't quit coaching. They've still got Max Crosby rolling around out there. This game should be fairly close throughout, but Denver's the better team. If they don't make any major mistakes here, they should roll on right through here and get the W.
Yeah, give me the Broncos. I didn't think too hard about this one. That defense is stifling. Looking for my guy Nick Benito to make a couple plays again in this one. Next up, another super banged up game. A little disappointing. What we're probably going to end up seeing is the 49ers at the Packers. Green Bay is currently favored by 5.5. I'm sure that will continue to rise as we get closer to game
Mm-hmm.
action. But 49ers are going to be without quarterback Brock Purdy and defensive lineman Nick Bosa. Ben, what do you got here?
I already had the Packers in a close one, and now with Purdy out, I've got the Packers rather handily here. I just don't see where the 49ers Christian McCaffrey would just have to go off in this game. And even then, I think Jordan Love would have to throw a pick or two for the Packers to lose this thing. Packers at home, Matt LaFleur, excellent head coach. He's going to have everybody ready to go here. Even when healthy, the Packers have just been playing better. They've won 5 out of 6 games. And then you just watch them over the not over the past 3 or 4 weeks. You watch them over the course of the season, they've been playing better. Now, the last 3 or 4 weeks, Green Bay hasn't looked the greatest, but still they're finding ways to win, and I expect that on Sunday.
Yeah, give me the Packers, no doubt. The 49ers are going with Brandon Allen at quarterback. I'm trying to see, is this the guy that beat the Steelers in a random game when he was in Cincinnati? Does not look like it. Cincinnati is really good at those random backup quarterbacks. Brandon Allen starting in this one instead of Josh Dobbs for the 49ers. It's probably going to be a snooze fest. I'm looking at the Packers to take pretty firm control early on in this one, I think. We are now getting to Eagles and Rams as the Sunday night game this week. The Philadelphia Eagles are currently favored by 3 points on the road. What do you got here?
This should be a fun one. And the Rams are dangerous, and the Rams can score a little bit here. And I obviously like Sean McVay better than I like Nick Sirianni. But the Eagles are rolling. And to me, when you start looking at the matchups, O lines, D lines, QB secondaries, this doesn't feel like a good matchup for the Rams ultimately. It just feels like player wise, roster wise, it all favors the Eagles. I really feel like the Rams offensive line is going to have a hard time dealing with this Eagles defense. Stafford's not going to get to set up and throw as much as he would like to his receivers. And I figure that this Eagles offense is going to run the football right through this Rams D ultimately. I like the young pieces here for the Rams, but I just don't think this is the game where the Rams pull it out. Give me the Eagles fairly comfortably here.
Yeah, this Eagles defense is rolling. The pass defense is nearing elite levels in terms of this season. Vic Fangio took a couple weeks to get going, had to get a couple guys healthy,
Yeah.
but they are absolutely on a tear right now. The Eagles will be without Devonta Smith, but the Rams on the other side likely without Rob Havenstein. They have not had that line fully healthy, so I think that kind of cancels each other out. And I just don't know for the Rams, they would need a really good defensive game plan, and they do a good job in the secondary overall. But there's not one guy I feel like can really stop AJ Brown from having a big game the way the Eagles like to target him, even when Smith is out there. So if you're putting all your resources into stopping either Saquon or AJ Brown, and that's with Jalen Hurts kind of being back to moving around a little bit okay this year, I think the Eagles are just going to be too much for the Rams in this one, especially with what they do with their defensive backs on the defensive end. Give me the Eagles in this one on the road as well. All right, we get to Monday night. You hinted at it earlier. The Harbaugh Chargers at Ravens at Chargers. Excuse me. Baltimore is favored by 2.5 on the road. What do you got here?
It's my official most funnest game of the week. This is the one I'm most looking forward to. The Harbaugh storyline is obvious, but that's ultimately not why I'm looking forward to this. To me, it's just two good football teams. And the styles, I think, are going to be a really interesting clash in this game. So that's ultimately why I'm looking forward to this football game. Give me the Chargers. I've been riding Chargers all week. And, I've listened to a lot of people, a lot of podcasts, and I just haven't ultimately found a reason to flip off the Chargers. It's basically a toss up. You got Lamar and this best offense in the league over the course of the season rolling in here. They could run up some points and win this thing. There's no question. But ultimately, here, I like the Chargers. And the biggest reason for it is this Ravens defense is just so bad. I mean, every week, week in and week out, they've given up a lot of points. They're sloppy on tackling. They actually hold up pretty well against the run. But in terms of pass coverage, they are terrible. And I just every week I watch them, I haven't seen them improving that. I don't see where they're getting better significantly. They just kind of keep looking bad every week. And so that's the biggest reason I'm picking the Chargers here is just that Ravens defense is that bad.
Yeah, Ravens defense is pass defense is not good this year, and they're going to be without Roquan Smith, who is not having his typical Roquan Smith season at
No.
linebacker, especially from a pass coverage standpoint, anyways. But that's your hub of communication, really. So that's now probably going to fall on someone like Kyle Hamilton, which isn't a bad thing. Hamilton can handle it, but that's just another wrench into what you're trying to do defensively. Maybe you're not getting um, the same communication, which honestly hasn't been that great. Anyways, all that said, I'm still going to go with Baltimore in this one. The Ravens offense is just elite. And I know we kind of have a couple of bad games in recent memory for them, but those are division games, AFC North games against the Browns and the Steelers when it just didn't look that clean. The games in between, I mean, they're playing the Broncos, who had an elite defense. They put up 41 on them. If they're not playing AFC North, and even the Bengals, I mean, AFC North football, but 35 against them, I think, in both games. So this this Ravens team is going to put points up on everybody, and that's no shot at the Chargers. But we should also mention the injury situation. Baltimore, like I said, without Roquan Smith, also probably without Travis Jones, the nose tackle. But the Chargers, they're banged up too. They could be missing corner Cam Hart, wide receiver Lad McConkey. That's the big one for me. And then edge rushers Khalil Mack and Bud Dupree. And that's with Joey Bosa always kind of being nicked up and whether it's a snap count or just kind of limited in his play. Um, this Chargers defense could be a little depleted going against the Ravens. And the thing that has made this Chargers offense kind of turn on its heel in a positive way this season has been Lad McConkey going to him and becoming a more first down, pass heavy team over the second half of what we've played so far this season. But if Herbert doesn't have his top target, or even if he does, but McConkey is limited, I think we could be in for a rough game from them offensively. Maybe not a bad one, but at least in the standpoint of if this is just going to be a straight up shootout, right? Like the Bengals games, like which is a great example because Chargers just had a shootout against the Bengals. They were able to outlast them there. But I don't know if they'll turn around and, this Ravens offense is just another step up at this point. So I've got the Ravens in this one, probably another shootout after a quiet Sunday for the most part, especially that 1 p.m. slate. This Monday night game is going to be fantastic.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll quickly add to this because this game is worth the extra mention. Chargers have not been good at the run, stopping the run this year. They've
Right.
been completely average. A lot of that is due to talent because the overall defense is not super talented. But also you have Harbaugh kind of playing the back seven back a little bit and stressing, keeping everything in front. Let's be physical. Let's keep pass coverage. Let's come downfield. Let's not confuse ourselves. Let's come down, play downhill, downfield against these short passes and everything else. So he's willing to give up small yardage up the middle. But if you do that against Baltimore, they're going to heat you up with Derrick Henry. So I'm curious to see if Harbaugh reverses field a little bit this week, loads the box against Henry, and then forces Lamar to have the big game. That's what I would do, but Harbaugh may not look at it that way.
And the Chargers, a lot of that defense, why they can do a lot of that stuff is they do get a really good pass rusher. Right? They're seventh in the league in
Right.
sacks and in QB pressures. But there's no quarterback in the league that's better against pressure, that's better at avoiding sacks and hurting you on, sack, when you're trying to get to them. Now,
Yes.
now the Chargers at least don't blitz a lot. They're 21st in blitz rate. So they're doing it with their front four for the most part,
Right.
but they live off of getting to the quarterback and bothering the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar is the most unbothered quarterback in the league when it comes to pressure. So that's another reason why I don't think he's gonna have much issue with this, especially if one or two of these extra guys are going to be injured in this game for the Chargers.
It's a great point. He's so unbothered. I've literally seen him get run out of pocket, glance back to make sure the guy couldn't catch him, and then just go stand on the sideline for a couple of seconds and survey the field.
Yeah, that ball's on his hip. He's not worried about a darn thing, man. That guy is unreal. He's something else. All right, let's get to our bet segment here. Just the two of us here. No Parker's crazy parlay of the week for now. I'm sure he'll get one in here before tomorrow kicks off. But let's get a little bit working the standings here, Ben. I out of nowhere am in first
Mm-hmm.
place because I hit the 1 out of 8 bets last week, so I survived. I have 94.53 goats worth. Austin is in second at an even and clean 75 goats worth. Parker right behind at 74.98. And you are in last right now, Ben, 70.34 goats worth. I made sure to give all decimals this time because I got a little bit of flack last week for rounding up and down for some people. But Ben, what are you going to do to try to make up this deficit you're in?
And now that I'm in last place, the conservative approach isn't working. So I'm going to step up my game a little bit here. All right. We'll see what we can do here on the second half of the season. I'm going to go with the Packers win. I've adjusted the line a little bit here, so it's not the standard spread here. Packers win at -7. I can catch that at plus 111. And I'm going to put 10 on that. I really do feel comfortable that they're going to win this game comfortably. It may be close it may be close halfway through the third quarter where they're
Mhm.
controlling it, but I do expect them to come on out here and pull away with this victory. So at 7 points, I feel pretty good about it, and we'll drop 10 goats worth.
Yeah, going up against a backup quarterback, it feels like anytime you can add some points to it and get that into plus odds, that's a pretty good place to be. I didn't have a great sack artist this week, Ben, which is pretty disappointing. Man, there's alliteration segment I've been missing this whole season. Simon Sack Artist of the Week. Nick Benito is officially in minus odds for getting a sack, which is a real
Mm.
bummer for me. That was free money. It's still only minus 115 for him to get half a sack. So go out there if you're trying to make a real bet. Go ahead and do that. But I'm not going to do that for the purposes of this exercise. I'm going with Harold Landry of the Tennessee Titans. 0.25 sacks. If he goes over that, that's plus 170. Now, Landry's a good player. He's only got 5 sacks on the season, and it's pretty inconsistent. I mean, he had 3 sacks in the first 2 weeks, but they're going against the Texans. It's a division rival.
Yeah.
Stroud has, I think, taken the second most sacks this season. There's still a whole lot of mess on that offensive line. Um, I think Landry is going to get after Stroud this week, and I think he's going to want to get a sack, try to make a big difference in this game. So I think he can get half a sack, and at plus 170, I feel good about that. And I'm just going to put 5 goats on that one for plus 170 to try to win 8.5 goats. All right, what do you got next? What's this next one?
That's been a thread that's worked for you this season, especially the past few weeks. So that's good. And the situation is right there for Texans O line. This one I'm not as comfortable about, but I needed to get a little aggressive here, and this is where I was at. So Lions win at an alternate spread of minus 12. That's a huge line.
Hmm.
I know it is. I can get that at plus 152. I'm going to drop 10 goats worth on it. Again, I don't feel anywhere near as good about this one, but this is where I had to get some significant plus money on a game I felt good about. And again, I'm not slighting the Colts. It's just the Lions are that good. Right now, they're ripping through everybody. So if you're not a good team, they're going to smoke you, you know? And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen this week. Even if the Colts have a decent game, the Lions are going to run them through. So give me the Lions here, and I'll put the 10 goats worth on that. See what I can do with it.
The other thing with the lines and doing this, man, because sometimes when teams are this good, you're afraid of big lines because they can get conservative, kind of hold back. Lions don't hold nothing back, man. I mean,
No, they
they
don't.
try to beat everybody into the ground as much as they can. I mean, you've got a 52-14 and a 52-6 win over the last 4 weeks here. So I think this is a good one going against the Colts. Who are going through their own issues for sure. And the best thing about these two bets, Ben, is you hit one of these, you're going to cover both of them happening. So I think this is a solid move by you.
Best
My
I can
next
do.
bet here is I'm going to go with a little parlay in Parker's honor, not nearly as big as his, but I'm going to go Bucks and Vikings. Just parlay those two to win together. We talked about how confident we were in those games. I'm getting plus 115 for that. It was hard to find, I mean, you did it with your alternate lines. It was hard to find just good lines to try to win money on because
Yeah.
these lines are huge. But I'm just going to take these two teams to win and what are pretty comfortable games going against the Tommy Cutlets and Caleb Williams and the new offense for the Bears. So I'm putting 10 more on that. That's plus 115, trying to win 11.5 goats on that one. Ben, anything else for you here, man, for the Week 12 slate before we get out of here?
Everybody enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you after Thanksgiving. We'll be right back here next Saturday night.
We appreciate it, everybody. Thank you all so much for checking this out. Again, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you're checking out all of the podcasts, part of Box Score Network. Follow us on Twitter at BScore Network. We appreciate it as always. Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you soon.